Well, I guess it's too much to ask for two good wrestling shows in a row because this episode of Raw was complete garbage. So without further ado, cuckolds, it's your boy the Hater. What up, cucks? All right, let's get to it. Hater Outdoors Monday Night Raw review. Now, as I just said, the show was complete garbage, so bear with me as we go through it segment by segment. So the show starts out with Joe Tessitore telling us that tonight, Rhea Ripley will be wrestling for the first time on Raw in nearly a year. This is quite peculiar because she's been back since July, which means that it's been 5 months that she refuses to wrestle on Raw. In other words, and this is going to be a theme of this episode, the only people you're allowed to see wrestle are complete jobbers. Basically people that will never be on pay-per-view. But let's get to it. Gunther comes out for no reason, just to bore us to death, right? He basically says that Balor made a grief mistake. He obviously means grave mistake, and we'll forgive it because just like your boy, he's an immigrant, you know what I'm saying? Finn Balor comes out and says he deserves a title shot. This is incredibly stupid. If Finn Balor is given a title shot because he cost someone else the world title, then that sets a dangerous precedent. Because what prevents Otis from coming out and ruining Finn Balor's title shot and then coming out the next day and saying, I want a title shot now because I didn't let Finn beat you, right? Anyone could do this. It doesn't mean that you get a title shot. Gunther basically cuts the I don't respect you promo, which he has cut in the past with Finn Balor. Basically says, I used to admire you, now you suck, right? A typical Gunther promo. This guy has never entertained anybody in anything he's done. He sucks. Then, all of a sudden, Judgment Day come to attack Gunther, right? Gunther gets kind of saved from Damian Priest, but then Gunther attacks Damian Priest. Now, the brawl is won by Judgment Day. Finn Balor does 3 coup de graces from the top rope to Damian Priest. First of all, I don't like this spammy finisher nonsense, right? The same way that Cookie Rhodes does 3 crossroads. Why isn't one finisher enough? You know what I mean? It's because the finishers suck ass. If Taker does a tombstone, that's it. He's not going to pick up and do another tombstone because the tombstone's supposed to kill you, basically. Same thing with the rock bottom, with the stunner, with the pedigree, with the super kick, with any kind of finisher that has been protected. But because the coup de grace is boring, he has to do it 3 times. It's one thing for Bronson Reed to do like 5 tsunamis because the idea is he's just punishing someone because the tsunami looks devastating. You know what I mean? And even that, he can't do that every match. He has to do that in special circumstances, like when he's trying to get a push. Backstage, we move on to Backstage. Finn and JD will defend the titles next week against the Viking Jobbers. I don't know why it's not happening this week. Finn Balor's not doing anything else, right? I guess even Finn Balor is too good to wrestle on Raw. Well, who the fuck is good enough to wrestle on Raw then? Who the fuck sucks enough to wrestle on Raw? Anyways, Damian gets added to the match on Saturday Night Main Event because he got screwed out of the title twice. Liv Morgan sarcastically asks Finn Balor for advice since Finn wants to win, or whatever his catchphrase is, right? Finn Balor has one match in like 7 months, you know what I mean? So I don't know why Finn Balor gets any kind of opportunities, but it is what it is. If you thought things couldn't get worse, you're in for quite a surprise. The final jobbers come out, also known as the Final Testament. The Miz is being wasted with these massive jobbers. Then they go on to wrestle the Wyatt 6, who come out looking like complete shit. What's his face? Bo Dallas, first of all, it's like he's gained 20 pounds from like last month, right? Which it happens, I guess, but you know, you're supposed to be on TV. Eric Rowan just looks like an idiot, as usual, right? The other 2 guys are not even worth discussing. Like Joe Gacy just doesn't look like a wrestler at all. Oh, Hater, you should see him in Cage of Death 11 in CCW. I don't care. He looks like someone whose ass I'd beat in 2 seconds. I don't care if he could beat my ass with thumbtacks, right? He doesn't look the part at all. Dexter Lumis, the only one who looks the part because he actually works out, has decided to grow his hair into one of the worst haircuts of all time, especially considering that he had a great haircut before this. But anyways, once again, the Hater is validated. The Wyatt 6 is a jobber faction, and we saw this today because the Final Testament won. This marks the first win in the history of the Final Testament, and it's like the 3rd career win in Karrion Kross's like main roster career, which has spanned several years. Karrion Kross never wins, but against the Wyatt 6, anything's possible. Basically, He hits his, like, whatever, the final prayer or whatever, which is not a bad move, and he pins Bo Dallas after some interference from a returning Paul Ellering, right? Basically, the Wyatt Six, as far as I'm concerned, are completely done. There is no point in having them around anymore. Their air of invincibility is gone because they got their ass beat by a team of jobbers, right? I thought they would at least beat the Final Testament, and then their next feud, they would take their first loss. But no, the Wyatt Six is now, wait for it, 1-1, right? Or I guess 2-1 if you count like Bo Dallas on a match or something against Chad Gable. So they're 2-1 in like 9 months, right? This is a failed concept. The Wyatt Six is garbage. The Wyatt Six is a complete waste of anyone's time. When their entrance music hits, Joe Tessitore says that, oh, very few things can make the crowd go silent, right? And it's like, that's when I realized I was driving at this time while I was listening to Raw. And I couldn't help but think to myself, man, like that's really all they are. All they are is an entrance theme, right? The entire Wyatt Six and everyone inside it is just an entrance theme. They have zero talent. I don't think I've ever seen a collection of less talented wrestlers in my entire life. Like, they make Retribution look like fucking DX. You know what I mean? They make Retribution look like the Four Horsemen up in this mug. You know what I mean? Like, Mustafa Ali at least could wrestle. None of these guys bring anything to the table. They are complete zeros. They add nothing to this company, and it's only a matter of time before they are mercifully fired. Think about it this way. If this gimmick was meant to be serious, there would be talks right now of what if what if Bo Dallas were to win the Royal Rumble, right? The probability of that happening is 0. The probability of Bo Dallas being on WrestleMania is 1%. And if he is, he's gonna come out with a boogeyman in like a weird segment and they're gonna scare like Carlito or something, you know what I mean? That's what's gonna happen. This is a fucking jobber faction, and I said from day one, and people who don't understand anything about wrestling, the same people that insist that Trick Williams is the next Booker T and that Oba Femi is the next big thing and that, that Axiom is the new Rey Mysterio, these same people that understand absolutely nothing thought that Bo Dallas was going to be this next big thing. And the hater who understands all of this can see through this garbage. No, Trick Williams is not going to be the next Booker T. Trick Williams is going to be the next, Baron Corbin. You know what I mean? And Oba Femi is going to be the next, let's see who's comparable to him. Baron Corbin. They're both going to be the next Baron Corbin. That's where their limit is. They're a bunch of Baron Corbins, and Bo Dallas is just Bo Dallas. He's like one of the biggest jobbers, literally, of all time. I don't understand how this guy even has a job anymore. But anyways, I would say that I was happy that I was proven right and that the Wyatt Six lost, but quite frankly, I don't care. I don't care at all about them because they're so inconsequential, and neither is the Final Testament, so I don't care who wins this feud or this match. So there you have it, cuckwads. That's how that went down. Next up, we have a CM Punk segment. It's basically a backstage interview with Kathy Kelly or whatever her name is, right? She basically says, what's the deal with the favor that Heyman owes you? He's like, I'm not saying now. Okay, great, go fuck your mother then. You know, how about just say it? Everyone has to be so mysterious. But anyways, he refuses to share, and basically he says that CM Punk is back now, so Seth Rollins is a backup player. He's a bench warmer, so he needs to go back in the bench because the starter is here, right? I don't know what the animosity is all about. He alludes to the fact that Seth Rollins wanted to be trained by CM Punk for free. Who gives a shit? Nobody cares about this, right? It doesn't feel big time. They want to make this feel like a main event level thing, but it just feels like an undercard, mid-card at most feud, right? That I don't care at all. Nobody could possibly care as to whether CM Punk or Seth Rollins will come out on top of this, right? But nevertheless, we have to tolerate it, right? Then we have a match. It's Liv Morgan versus Dakota Kai. Liv Morgan wins with Oblivion, which looks like shit. She basically just jumps and hugs the person, and they do a front roll. The opponent does a front roll, Liv does a back roll, and it's supposed to be this devastating face buster type move. She just botches it every time. It's supposed to be like a reverse STO that she kind of uses her hips to spring off the ropes. But instead, she just jumps in the middle of the rope, hugs the person, and they both roll, right? It's just a shit move. Liv Morgan, there's a lot going on with Liv Morgan that's good, but she's very unathletic. I've been saying this for years now. She's very unathletic, and she has no business putting on these kind of matches and having an athletic moveset. Her moves should be simple moves, like the DDT. You know what I mean? Remember when Lita was a wrestler? And Lita was athletic. One of her finishers was the DDT. Like, every woman has used a DDT as a finisher. Nevertheless, it is what it is. Liv Morgan wants to stand out. It's not working out at all. But who am I to say, right? Then we have a Drew McIntyre vignette about how he lost. And he also is pissed off that people are on Roman Reigns' cock. That's basically the entire gimmick now of Drew McIntyre. He's upset at Sami Zayn because Sami Zayn chose to support Roman Reigns. CM Punk, he says, at least was a mercenary. He did it for pay. So he's just moved on for CM Punk inexplicably, and now he hates Sami Zayn. So are we going to see any follow-through with this? No. That's it, motherfucks. You got your vignette. Now shut the fuck up. People like Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, you're going to get a vignette that was taped 3 weeks ago. They're going to show you that, and that's your dose of CM Punk and Drew McIntyre for the next couple of weeks. Deal with it. You're lucky to get what you get. You know what I mean? You're lucky to get a vignette involved, like an in-ring promo involving Sami Zayn, who doesn't even wrestle anymore. You know, when it comes to wrestling, it's going to be people like the Final Testament, Bray Wyatt, Bo Dallas, fucking Tozawa, the likes of those people. But anyways, then we have a thing with New Day showing up backstage. Cody says they should be ashamed of themselves. Basically, nobody cares about this. It's like a very, very passive situation. It really shows how irrelevant Cody Rhodes is. Then Seth Rollins comes out looking incredibly dumb. However, Seth Rollins is speaking facts. He basically says that for better or for worse, CM Punk had no choice but to come to WWE because he did it for the money, right? Then Seth Rollins explains, this was a bad promo, but it was true, right? That's possible too. Sometimes the truth is not advantageous. And in this situation, that's what we saw. Seth Rollins correctly says that CM Punk failed at everything else and had no other options, which really makes the WWE look like shit. It's basically like if CM Punk was like 10-0 at this point in the UFC, he would still be UFC champion, right? He would never come back if he was undefeated, right? If he could somehow pull it off, but he couldn't do it, so he came here. That's what Seth Rollins alludes to, kind of, right? He basically says CM Punk has no choice but to be here. He's burned every bridge, right? And he screwed it up a little bit, but the point stands, right? CM Punk has ruined everything, and in the last 10 years, Seth Rollins correctly states that CM Punk has taken every pot shot he can at this company, right? CM Punk is the ultimate hypocrite. I hate CM Punk. Anyways, then Sami Zayn comes out. Why have CM Punk come out when Sami Zayn can come out? Sami Zayn comes out, and then he and Seth Rollins engage in what easily is the worst in-ring segment of all time because they're talking about other people. They come out, Sami Zayn says, I'm sorry. And then he says, I misunderstood your beef with CM Punk. Then he leaves. To be fair, I couldn't get past it, and I skipped forward. Now, sometimes when I watch Raw and SmackDown, I skip forward the irrelevant matches and get to the finish. But almost never, this is probably the first time where I have skipped an in-ring segment. I couldn't handle it. It was so bad. Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn are so shit at the mic that nobody could possibly care to hear what they want to say. Now, with that being said, it's also important to note that both of them are talking like they're big deals. Don't forget the fact that you're both jobbers. The fact is, nobody wrestles anymore, so you're the only guys that they have, right? If The Rock comes back, then nobody gives a shit about Seth Rollins and, Sami Zayn. And then Seth Rollins says, I'm not like Drew McIntyre. And I'm thinking, yeah, we know. He's twice your size. You know, he's a jobber too, but he's a jobber that's twice your size, right? Seth Rollins then, at some point, says that he did what CM Punk couldn't do. Main event WrestleMania, at which point I nearly threw up. First of all, as we've established many times on this channel, main eventing night one of WrestleMania doesn't count as a main event. Number two, in that match, he was just another body, right? Nobody gave a shit that Seth Rollins was in the match, right? He main evented specifically because CM Punk could make it. You know what I mean? He literally got the spot because CM Punk was injured. That's all that happened, right? He didn't deserve it. He didn't do anything for it, and he did nothing impressive in the match. It's as simple as that. He was the fourth guy there, with the first guy being The Rock, the second guy being Roman, and then Cody Rhodes way ahead of him, and then somewhere down the line is Seth Rollins' monkey ass. Then we get a commercial, and one of the commercials is for the Wesley Javon Evans match in NXT. I'm actually looking forward to this. I don't know if I'm going to watch it. I'm probably going to forget. But I like Javon Evans a lot. I think this guy has a bright future. I hope to see good things out of him. You know, people are focused on Trick Williams, Obafemi, and fucking Tony D'Angelo. I think Javon Evans has the highest ceiling of them all. He'll probably also end up being a jobber, but I could see him having like a Kofi Kingston. You know what I mean? Like a Kofi Kingston-ish, Jey Uso-ish. You know what I mean? Like that level of a career, right? I could see him being a tag guy. I could see him being like a Gregory Helms. You know what I mean? And the highest potential he has is he can have like a lesser than Jeff Hardy career, but close enough, right? Something like that, where he can start out as a tag guy and then one day he can like kind of break out and have like a few main event runs like here and there, right? But the other guys are not going to make it in NXT. I don't think anybody in NXT right now has any kind of capacity to do anything of value. Like nobody there is good. You know what I mean? Ironically, the only one that's good, like I just said, obviously, Javon Evans. And upon watching the show, I got to give it up to my boy Nathan Frazier. This guy is fucking awesome, honestly. Like, I was talking shit about him for a long time, and I'm not even being sarcastic. Nathan Frazier rules. Like, this guy's athletic as shit. He reminds me of like a young AJ Styles, but he's more athletic. You know? So we'll see how that goes. Anyways, after that, Zelina Vega comes out, and she will wrestle Ivy Nile and Lyra Valkyria. I skipped the entire match. I already wrote down on the notes, Lyra will certainly win, and then she does, right? I didn't even see the finish. I fast-forwarded enough to where they showed the brackets, and it said Lyra. So I'm like, all right, I knew it was gonna happen. Zelina Vega is like, I don't think she's ever won a match. Like, ever. I don't think she's ever won a match. You know what I mean? And then the other one, Ivy Nile, has won like one match. These are like two of the biggest jobbers of all time. Lyra Valkyria was getting pushed all of this year. But anyways, that's how that went down. New Day come out. They don't have a new entrance song yet, which I think is a missed opportunity. But I didn't like the fact that Xavier Woods came out. He like steals the camera from the cameraman, and then that leads to nothing. He steals the camera, then he goes into the ring. What was the point? Just for them to document their entrance? It was really stupid. I guess the point was, now that I think about it, I guess the point was to justify them not having entrance music, right? They came out like renegade, like unplanned. Actually, that's kind of brilliant now that I think about it. He came out with the camera, because obviously they're not going to play the New Day music, and maybe they don't have the music ready. This segment was exactly what you would expect. This is a filler segment of long-term booking, but it's necessary, right? Sometimes certain things are necessary. In this case, they were being booed out of the building, and the most logical thing to do would be for them to leave, right? This will ensure they get more heat next week, and I thought this was a good segment for what it was. Obviously, it wasn't a 10-star segment because nothing happened, but it was entertaining, and I'm willing to tolerate this for a week or two, right? Them coming out and being booed out of the building. After that, I need to hear some shit, right? In this segment, they say things a little bit, like Kofi Kingston's like, we could have taken a chair to Big E's back, and the fans boo, whatever. You understand what's going on here, right? Then finally, we have the main event. I skipped it almost in its entirety, not because I have no respect for these women. I don't like Rhea Ripley at all. I think she's fucking horrible. But the primary reason why I skipped it was because there's absolutely 0% chance that Raquel Rodriguez is beating Rhea Ripley in her first match in like a year, right? It's a complete waste of time. Nobody wants to watch this match at all, right? If you don't understand anything about wrestling, then you may be interested in like the actual match. But for me, the thing that makes a match good, the most important element of a match being good is not knowing the outcome. That's why some of the greatest wrestling matches of all time have been these like even keel like booking people, right? So for example, one of my favorite matches of all time, what's it called? Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, player, both of them, but especially the second one. The second one I thought was the inferior of the matches, but Shawn Michaels' career is on the line, and it's 50-50. He might lose, or he might win, right? Like, The Undertaker's streak is a big deal, but so is Shawn Michaels' career. So you're putting this up in a 50-50. You're like, oh, anything could happen. Either one could win. This is going to be amazing. You know what I mean? That's one of my favorite matches. My favorite match of all time, probably, is Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle at WrestleMania. This match was perfect, too, because Shawn Michaels was on Raw, and Angle was on SmackDown. So they didn't meet each other. So, you didn't know who was better than who, comparatively speaking, but you did know that these are, two of the best wrestlers of all time, right? But it could have gone either way. The match itself was excellent, too, but it could have gone either way. Now, with Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez, it's like one of them is going to be, in a women's title match at WrestleMania, and the other one is going to be in the Mae Young Classic Tournament, or whatever the fuck they call it now, right? Raquel Rodriguez has no future in this company, unless she gets over somehow, right? She has no future in here. She's a lackey. She has no chance of winning anything important. So with all that being said, it's like, why would I watch this match, right? Same thing, honestly, with most matches that are being advertised. I know for a fact that Carmelo Hayes is not going to beat Cody Rhodes. I know that Gunther is going to beat both Damian and Finn Balor, right? I know this was going to happen. So it's like, why would I watch this shit? I know that Kevin Owens has very little to basically zero chance to beat, Cucky Rhodes, right? The only way he beats him is if they want to do like Randy Orton beats Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton goes into Mania with the title, which I highly doubt. So it's looking like it's going to be Cucky Rhodes. But with that being said, you understand what I'm getting at here, guys. You understand what I'm getting at, yeah. For better or for worse, things are the way they seem to be. And the hater can tell you that this episode of Raw was complete and utter garbage. Unlike other episodes of Raw where something happens, here absolutely nothing happened. The thing that we were looking forward to, I think, the New Day segment, this was definitely a possibility that nothing would happen, and we got that out of the way at least. So that's a step in the right direction, if you will. But conceptually speaking, this episode of Raw was like disaster. It was a complete waste of time. Like nobody cares. We're basically just waiting for Saturday night main event. Like on SmackDown, nothing's gonna happen. There was no follow through from anything that happened last week. Drew McIntyre didn't show up. CM Punk didn't show up. Like nobody showed up, man. And the people that did show up, they didn't wrestle. Like Gunther didn't wrestle. You know what I mean? Rollins didn't wrestle. Sami Zayn didn't wrestle. Jey Uso wasn't even there. You know what I mean? Like these people don't even show up anymore. Right? And when they do, you sure as shit know that they didn't wrestle. So let's just very quickly do a recap of all the things that happened today in terms of matches. So we had Zelina Vega, Ivy Nile, and Lyra Valkyria, neither of which have ever appeared in a match in pay-per-view, except for that one time when Zelina Vega was in that Puerto Rico pay-per-view, just due to the fact that she's Puerto Rican. We had Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez. Raquel has never been a pay-per-view. Rhea Ripley has, but she doesn't wrestle on Raw. So this is a weird, like, one-off, right? It's literally once a year she wrestles on Raw at this point. Then what other matches do we have? Liv Morgan and Dakota Kai. Liv Morgan is obviously one of the better wrestlers in this company in terms of booking. She wrestles consistently both on TV and in pay-per-view. So I got to give her props. But Dakota Kai doesn't, and she's never going to be on pay-per-view. So right now we have 3 women's matches, and nobody could possibly care less. That's it. That's all the matches we had, except for the final jobbers and the Wyatt Six, who will never be on pay-per-view. So think about what I just said. Basically, we have Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, and you're paying to see that. The rest are people that, like, when you play WWE 2K, right? And you do, like, let's say do an exhibition match, and you're like, I don't know who I want to pick. So you press square, right? Now, if you press square, which makes it go random on PS5, and the randomizer falls on, like, Razor, right? You're going to be like, not Razor. So you're going to press square again. Then it's going to say Joe Gacy. You're going to be like, not Joe Gacy, right? Square again, Ivy Nile. Not Ivy Nile, right? You're going to keep going because none of these people are worthwhile, right? None of them are interesting enough to play as, right? Which means they're not interesting enough to be on TV. That being said, take care of yourselves, and I look forward to our next video tomorrow, but I look forward to the SmackDown review as well. It's going to be a very busy week and a half for the hater, so bear with me, cuckolds.